Hello guys, I hope everyone is well. We're going to talk about now about kin cryptocurrency, about Ted Livingston, about kinships, about cold wallet, about flip chat, about flip cash. We're going to talk all about this. Now, feel free to comment anything you like. I'll try to get everything right. Some things I might get wrong, some things might be a little bit too emotional maybe. We'll see what comes up. But let's start with this. Ted made a decision to remove kin from Code Wallet in the future version, which is called Flip Cash. And that got the kin price to tank completely because kin is and was to a large extent, maybe almost everything, dependent on what Code Inc. what they are doing, what they are basically if they would go viral or not. The idea was always that Code Wallet would go viral and that because it goes viral, then the demand for kin would increase. And I'm just going to spill the beans here on a lot of thoughts that I have, a lot of opinions that I have, a lot of things that I said in the past that were ignored, and so forth. So I'm a little bit tired. I'm gonna take a sleep, a nap after this, but I'm gonna try to talk for at least like half an hour or 1 hour to tell you exactly what my feelings are on this. So number one is that the technology itself is super interesting for many reasons. Cold Wallet as a technology itself is super interesting because it does something that has so far not been achieved in other cryptocurrencies with other crypto wallets. And one of them is the simplicity of sending and receiving by links, by digital paper cash, and that in such a simple way that anybody can use it, literally anyone. I was able to expand marketing into I was able to expand marketing into Africa, uh, Nigeria, all a bit in Indonesia, and we were seeing that everybody was able to adopt Code Wallet without problems. Now, I'm gonna jump a little bit back and forth, but one of the things about Cold Wallet that was always a little bit of a problem, it was never completely polished. It was never completely polished in the sense like there were bugs. For example, I would send a Cold Wallet link from Android to someone else, and it would say the for the people it would say it's not claimable. But when it worked, it's it was absolute genius. Like when it worked, it was genius. So it was fantastic to send a cash link to someone, the person clicks on it, instantly is in their wallet, etc. Absolutely amazing in that sense. But it's still very buggy. Like the cold wallet itself is still very buggy. Okay. And so we have like a 90% polished product, not a 100% polished product that people worldwide would use with a hard cryptocurrency called kin, where people would be safe from inflation, nobody could manipulate it, and so forth. And that was good. That was awesome. That idea was amazing. Okay, and I was one of the guys who coined the term micro payment engagement farming. I was the first person to coin the term and to use it in such a way that, for example, you would have a Telegram group. Gonna give you an example for micro payment engagement farming or Twitter. So you would tell people, please share this tweet, please invite users to this group, and then you would pay that person 2 cents, 3 cents per invite. This is something that traditionally would not be possible to do. So Cold Wallet unlocked this use case. Um, it was the first real use case for cryptocurrency in the social media space that was truly working. So we got, for example, the Nigeria Telegram group to like 2 or 3,000, almost 3,000 members, I think. The Indonesian group also like a couple hundred members and so forth, and it was growing, and people were inviting other people and or sharing tweets, and we would then rank very high with those tweets. So, for example, Elon Musk would tweet something, or somebody famous would tweet something, like Lex Friedman, whoever, and then I would post and I would respond to their tweet, and then we would push it out as a raid, and I would say, if you comment and like your tip card, which is the way to get tips, then I would tip you, and um, and I would pay you a couple cents basically for each of those actions. So that's micropayment engagement farming. Micropayment engagement farming, so MEF, micropayment engagement farming. And the acronym would be MEF. And I'm the first one in the world ever to have not only coined that with that neologism, but also to have invented basically micropayment engagement farming. And it was so good that our content about kin was actually read by the most important people in the world, from Elon Musk to whoever we wanted. We could have decided to target anyone, even what's this guy named, the guy who also wanted to run this, in guy from India, or with Indian parents, who wanted to run also for president, who's also a Republican, I think. V, something with V, his name. But we also engaged him, anybody. We could pick anyone, Joe Rogan, Cristiano Ronaldo. We could pick anyone and it would work. But I was super aware, of course, that it would probably go against Twitter or X rules, to give those micropayment engagement farming rewards. But the technology was so new and so unusual that people weren't, I don't think they understood what was happening. So in theory, we had at least one tool to go super viral, like super viral. And what I did is I started to build these Telegram groups, and people were like, how the fuck is he doing that? How is he doing this and that and this and that? And uh then came Tanner from Code Inc. And he was like, hey, listen, I worked with a guy. I don't want to name his name because I don't know if he's okay with it. But I worked with a guy who actually talked then to Code Inc. And we decided to set up a meeting, short meeting. I told him what we were doing, and he was ready to give us like $500. Tanner was ready to give us $500. Tanner is like a COO or product manager at Code Inc. I'm not sure exactly what he does there, but it's something in the background. So he was like, "Yeah, we would. I'm gonna talk to the CFO. We're gonna give you the $500, but I need to have a reason why and so forth." And so he was about to give us the $500, and at that moment, I decided to launch also KinCat. And KinCat, the idea of KinCat was to create a meme token on Solana, which would blow up by using MEF, micropayment engagement farming, with cash, with those cash links from Code Wallet, and make this really huge. So make it like a, let's say like a Doge, a Doge around the brand Kin with KinCat. So a lot of people were interested, but Tanner didn't give us the money in the end, and uh, he was like, I don't want you to mention, tag, code, us, the team, anyone about KinCat without any explanation. He just said, I don't want you to do that. He didn't say it's for legal reasons or blah, 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 XYZ. He didn't say anything. He just said, he doesn't want me to tag them. And I don't think they understood what I was trying to do. I don't think they understood it at all. And Kinships, who was managing the main Telegram group at that time, he said it's not allowed to talk about other tokens in that group. And I was like, yeah, but what about, strategically speaking, what about if a lot of meme tokens, that was my like viral idea, the big viral idea was, what if we got a whole bunch of meme tokens that were all using micropayment engagement farming with Code Wallet in order to drive their communities. So they would like blow up their communities by using MEF. And I was seeing a future where thousands and thousands of meme coins would use MEF to basically blow up their communities, right? So that was like the original idea that I had to go viral. But that wasn't the only idea. I had a whole bunch of other ideas which I'm going to talk about. One of them being airdropping leaflets to remote villages, which I'm going to talk about a little bit about later. So then I was like, okay, the micropayment engagement farming is one way to do this, and Kinship said, "No, I don't care. We're not going to talk about this." And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I was fine with it in the end. I was like, I'm fine with it. And then he banned me. He just outright banned me from the main Telegram group. And that's where I started to be out of the loop of what's going on. And I really hate to the core Kinships. And there's many reasons for it. The first being that he actually inside, I don't remember if he paid him or not, but he actually spread lies to someone who was one of my main members in order for that guy to spread lies in my groups, because I had these other Telegram groups. So, and he was telling lies about me in order to spread more lies that guy in my groups. And actually that guy who he manipulated, who Kinships manipulated, he apologized to me because he understood how malevolent Kinships actually is. And Kinships very quickly deleted those messages, so nobody could copy paste it and find out that he was trying to manipulate that guy into saying things about me so everybody hates me in my groups. It was very interesting. So, and that shows you how far he was ready to go to keep his control. So, that's one of the reasons. I'm going to keep it very short with Kinships. I'm going to say, so you understand it, I believe and I believe it 100%, if Kinships hadn't been with Kin at all, we would have had major success because I would have taken over the marketing in Telegram, in viral marketing, social media, everything, guiding the whole thing and really blowing it up with raids and everything. And Kidships didn't. He's he's like a non-crypto boomer, a little bit like Code Team, a non-crypto like Ted, a non-crypto boomer who thinks he understands it and just does a whole lot of bullshit, kind of like that, without understanding really the crypto market, who are those guys, how they are, how promotion works, how the marketing works. It was all always very conservative, very controlling, very it was just not good for the project. And not only that, but he basically shut down me, who was the most prolific developer and supporter of Kin and using the SDKs and everything. I give you another example. I had a microfunding platform using Kin, using Code Wallet, and it was highly regarded by the community. And when Ein Kinships had a fallout, he refused to name that microfunding platform. He refused to name it because he felt, instead of supporting Kin in general, it was clear to me that he never had Kin, the intention of really Kin as a success, as a major success. What he wanted is to keep control. It was important for him. There's something in him that I think there's some kind of lack of attention or something where he needs to be in control. And that hurt the project a lot. Like a lot, a lot. I would even go so far to say that if Kinships hadn't been there at all, we probably would have been between 100 and 200 million market cap on Kin. Because not because of his absence, but because I would have had a more prolific, more prominent role and doing the marketing and getting the word out there. I've and some people also, because he controlled the narrative, a lot of people didn't understand that I was the one who brought in thousands and thousands of people to code. This is I run a couple of sites now, not as much as I used to, but at the peak moment I was drawing in hundreds of code registrations per day. And there was a moment also where Telegram in my groups was blowing up so much that we had so many people use Code Wallet and the cache links from that alone. It wasn't it wasn't a complete strategy yet. There could have been much more been done, but I didn't feel the motivation or the support to do all of these things given Kinship's kind of blocking the whole thing in a way. Because if I had run the group from the beginning, I would have blown it up really big and I would have felt supported for all my projects. Um, and I would have had some narrative control over, sending people there, and really making it big. I mean, really big. Like, okay. So that's one thing. That's I truly believe if Kinships hadn't been there, because the work he has done, people think like, because some people have said, he has done most than anybody else for onboarding. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. That's one thing. And the second thing is that people don't understand the finer mechanics of marketing on a viral level. They don't understand that just administration of the Telegram group in such a conservative way and so unresourceful, you could say, that it was actually hurting the project. Because look at other coins. Look at how they do it. Completely different. Everyone does it completely different. There's rating. There is this viral aspect, the viral marketing loops, all of this stuff, and he completely missed that opportunity because of his extreme conservatism. So and in the end, which was kind of funny, he got the money from Tenor, which I felt was pretty stupid by Tenor, but okay. He gave them the money, and which is also funny because Super Team, okay, this is going to be a little bit more complicated, but Super Team in Nigeria, that might have also come through me, because I was already active on Super Team much, 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 much earlier. But okay, let's not get too much into the details now, but of what's been there. But let's go back to now Ted, about what Ted did so far with Code Inc. and what happened with Kin Foundation. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, let's go to back to the beginning so people understand what has happened. So Ted was the CEO of Kik. Kik was one of the largest messengers in the world at that time. I think it was the largest messenger in the world at that time when it launched, because it had interoperability between several platforms, which back in the day, BlueBerry didn't want. So he was like, okay, let's start a company and let's make a messenger that is interoperable on a lot of platforms. So that was kind of like, and he got very lucky. He was the first to market, and it went viral super, super, super quickly. The tech behind it, the software wasn't even, it was performant, but it wasn't that good. All right. You could only have 50 groups per group, 50 people in a group. There was a lot of spam bots. There was a lot of pedophiles on it. There were a lot of sexual things on it, and so forth. And there came more and more scrutiny towards Kick. And it's interesting because they had, I think they had like 100 people or 150 people, and then they decided, because they need money, they decided to make the ICO. They touted it as something like, it was a private company, I believe. So they decided, okay, we're gonna need a lot more money, and we're gonna make money with an ICO. But what they didn't disclose to the ICO investors, and I was one of the people in the ICO, what they didn't disclose is that they were burning 24 million a year, and they were using the Kick ICO money to operate Kin ICO money to operate Kick, and that wasn't clear to us ICO investors. Only through the SEC investigation this came to light, and at that time I should have already known. Okay, so Ted is an opportunist. He only tells you things to benefit him, but he doesn't tell the full truth. So in a way, if it had been a normal IPO, not an ICO, I believe he should have went to prison for that, because it was absolute negligence, purposeful negligence on fundamental financial information for a sound investment decision. Because probably if I had known, yeah, let's just go back to that time. If I had known that they were burning 24 million per year in that, using that our ICO money, and they only had 2 years more left maximum, then I would have probably not put my money there. And then they wasted even more money by buying a blockchain company in Israel, which then they folded a little bit later. So so at that time, blockchain wasn't that performant. There weren't layer twos on Ethereum. It was just Ethereum. And then there were a couple of forks. So Kin went onto an Ethereum fork. They went onto a Solana fork. Sorry, XLM Stellar fork. Then they went onto a Solana fork, and they were actually the first token to migrate onto Solana. And those migrations were very much well handled. They were good, well managed. And for us as people who were part of the kin community and owning those kin, it was always a time of stress. Like, will you get the kin well out? Will you get it onto the new blockchain? And those were 8 years of stress, basically. But I have to say the team managed it pretty well, in terms of, like, if you had kin on a ledger, if you had it on, in any kind of wallet, whatever, they gave the tools and they gave the support to basically get your kin out. So you moved from one chain to the next, and eventually ended up on Solana. Okay, that's where the Kin Foundation was still running with the KRE. The KRE was the Kin Rewards Engine. The Kin Rewards Engine, the idea was basically that you automatically reward mobile applications that integrate Kin in some form or fashion. And when the first payout was done by the KRE to the apps, and I checked out those apps, the thing is also, you have to understand the tech on a deep level, like also usability, the utility, the user interfaces, the user experiences. You have to understand all of it on a very deep level with a lot of industry experience to understand what is really possible, what makes sense, what doesn't. And there were a lot of people in the Kin Foundation who didn't have that experience. I have to say, I built web applications since I'm 14 years old. I had some of the first web applications and some of the largest in the world. For example, I had the second largest techno music website in the world. I did the first techno stream in the world. I had one of the first search engines in the world, one of the first email hosting providers in the world. I developed the first business network in the world before LinkedIn even existed. And so I understood, and I was 16 years old. I was 16, 17 years old. So I understand the tech, I understand the industry. And I had one site also which was the largest in its segment, um, in the consumer application area. And so so I do have that expertise and I do understand where the market started, where it's going, and all of this stuff. And I can usually see the future on these things. So and by the way, I built all of these things without outside help. I never had any employees actually. I was always doing it on my own, um and so the challenge was, and I never did it with funding. So uh just so you understand where my perspective is coming from when looking at all of these applications and these communities. So when then when Kin Foundation did the first disbursement of the KRE, I immediately recognized that the way they implemented the Kin wasn't well done. It wasn't gonna be. It was. It was just they were just harvesting Kin for cash, and they were not really interested in implementing it in a serious fashion. That was clear to me. And what happened then is that I said, under a different name, I don't remember what my name was. I said it on Reddit. I said, "Listen, guys," because we had the Kin community on Reddit. We used mostly Reddit. Telegram didn't use yet. And I said, "Listen, guys, we need to stop the KRE. That's absolute bullshit. What we need to do is have like a gremium, or like a like a almost like a first version of a DAO. DAOs also didn't exist at that moment really well, where 10 people come together, say, and they together look at the Apple implementations and decide one by one how well they integrate it, whether they have import, export, sending in, sending out, how you use everything, the quality of the whole integration. And depending on that and the usage numbers, then would come the disbursement of the money. But no, they kept on going. And they did this every time. I don't remember if it was every month, every quarter. They did the disbursements. I think it was every month. And so all these apps were getting massive amounts of Kin without really contributing to the ecosystem at all. And to me, it just felt absolute catastrophe. One of the things where it was the most obnoxious, the most obvious, was a VPN provider called Siphon it was called, and they got like 30 to 60 billion Kin, I believe, for absolutely nothing. You couldn't even find Kin within the application. And that showed that the whole thing is fundamentally flawed. And I said to the Kin Foundation, you guys need to stop this. And they didn't. So eventually, Ted also decided, okay, this is going nowhere, like a few years after that. Of course, then come the SEC investigation, all of that. But so a couple years after that, he decided, okay, he's going to have to do something else. So they decide, I think it was in 220. No, it was much earlier. I don't remember the date, but they started developing on Code Wallet, and it was like a stealth project. And so nobody knew what they were doing, and it wasn't part of the Kin Foundation. It was its own thing. But they already knew that it's going to be something so good, so different, that they won't even need the Kin Foundation. So Ted kind of hijacked everything. By the way, I was never a fan of William, the kind of the head of the Kin Foundation, or the who ran it. William was an absolute disaster, very ego driven, very, and the team, the Kin Foundation team, was using the Kin to finance their own like lifestyle and work, without contributing that much, and that led then, for Ted to kind of like start a revolution where they dismantled the Kin Foundation, and code would then basically make Kin completely decentralized, and they would use Kin within code to develop this kind of and show this kind of like super new revolutionary wallet. And at that time, they launched it only on iOS. They didn't have an Android developer, and they didn't succeed. They thought they had one, it didn't work out, and so they only had iOS basically. And the iOS um, application, um, they needed an Android developer, and at one point they then decided to go open source. And when they went open source, I started to post on Super Team and on Twitter that we're looking for an open source developer. And so a whole bunch of people came in and said they might be interested. And actually, from that post that I made, um, uh, Brandon popped up, who was like, "Oh, this sounds interesting. I'm gonna talk to Code Inc. and see what happens." Then he got to be put on the payroll by Code, and he started develop for Android. That's where I said that Brandon came through me, actually. So that's where, and he's so good that actually the Android came out pretty nicely and pretty quickly. There's still a bunch of bugs in Code Wallet, um, that still need to be fixed. I'm not sure it's Brandon's fault. I don't know if it's like that also on iOS. I would have to test, but there are some bugs still. But and then they, because of the lack of success with Code Wallet, which there are many reasons for it, would have to go into them as well in each individually, is they decided to work on Flip Chat, which is basically like a group chat function where you have Kin built in plus the VM. The VM is kind of like a, they call it virtual machine, but basically it's kind of like a smart contract running on Solana that virtualizes accounts. So they're much cheaper than if you run them completely on chain. And so they were able to reduce cost and speed by running it on the VM. And the VM, Flipchat is using the VM, and they added a couple more features, specifically Zell. He added also that they can airdrop to many accounts at once, so like 200 accounts at once. They can airdrop kins and stuff at very low cost. So they kind of were trying to innovate on top of Solana and do things that haven't been done before. And shout out to Zell for all that amazing work. And a lot of it was put into open source on GitHub, so you can actually hook into it and use it for your own project in theory. So all good until then. And now in FlipChat, with FlipChat, it was starting to grow, and it was clear that they need to come to a certain level of features and clean user interface and experience in order for people to really start using it. And I was seeing a little bit the light of at the end of the tunnel, that more people would use it, more and more people would use it, and the actual idea is pretty good. And then out of nowhere comes Ted and says, "No, we're gonna develop Flip Cash now, which is basically Cold Wallet with the VM integrated. And we're gonna use USDC instead of Kin." And I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" Kin price immediately tanked, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to be using USDC." And I cannot tell you how not only upset about it that I am, but how fucking stupid and idiotic that communication and everything around it by Ted was to the kin community. The same with kinships. Very patronizing, very like, for example, Ted said something where he said, to this day, to this moment, I cannot believe how they were communicating. The patronizing tone. He was like, "Well, you at this point you have to ask yourself, what is more important? Uh, Waiting for some miracle that kin price goes up, or that we fulfill Satoshi's vision?" At that moment, I would love to just punch him in the face. We've been building this 8 years. He's not been just an application developer that just randomly started to use Kin. He's the one who founded Kin originally. He's the one who brought it through many different blockchains. He's the one who worked through the Kin Foundation to get that dismantled, to set up, and in the end he just throws it away, like as if nothing happened, throwing everyone overboard, not caring about a single community member, like as if nothing had happened. It's and Kinships was doing the same. It's unbelievable. It's such disgusting human behavior. It's really borderline sociopathic, in my opinion. It's really like psychopathic. I mean, it's really crazy. And instead of instead of saying, for example, they should have really used me as a product manager and as a visionary as well, because I don't think they completely get it. So here's the thing: El Salvador uses Bitcoin as an official currency, as you know. They use it for their treasury. People can buy anything with Bitcoin in El Salvador and so forth. And what they have is an official wallet. They use two or three different wallets for BTC Lightning, and they have an official wallet. And those wallets super easy switch from Bitcoin to USD back and forth. So, for example, you receive BTC in El Salvador, you can click switch to USD, and you can click and it switches back to Bitcoin back and forth very easily. And so people in El Salvador can decide whether they want to have the risk of Bitcoin and see it going up or down, or whether they want to hold US dollars. And of course, in a lot of places in the world, US dollar, like in South America, Central America, it's nice to hold because dollars are hard currency for them, culturally speaking. So, but you always have the option with one click and it doesn't cost you any money. And I was like, that would be the perfect solution. Instead of all these efforts over all these years, using the community, using all these efforts that have been done, to give the option within Cold Wallet, um, to have Kin in there and flip it back and forth between USDC and Kin. That would have been the perfect solution if they really wanted to do this with USDC. No, but Ted said Kin is the culprit, and this is wrong and false. What I'm going to say now. He basically said, I'm paraphrasing, Kin is the culprit why code didn't have success, and that's false. That's what Ted believes, but it's not true. The real the real truth why code failed is not because they used Kin. The reason why code failed or is failing is because of the inability of Ted to execute a viral marketing plan. I'm 100% sure. And the inability on the iOS and Android front to fix all the bugs and UI UX problems on code. And there are some. It's not a polished product. Those things must be super, super, super clear. And even the on ramp It's like they it's like they get to 80-90%, and then they can't pull it off. It's like it reminds me like when you with something funny. If you sleep with a woman and she's close to the orgasm, but then you leave her the way she is and she never gets to the orgasm. It kind of feels like that. Like they always get to 80-90% and then they leave it. It's like they don't want to have unconsciously, it's like they don't want to have success because you need a super polished product nowadays in order to go viral. And that's the truth. That's the real reason why it's not going viral is that it's not a super polished product. And small things can already create so much frustration that people then don't want to give it to others. For example, Cold Wallet is developed in such a way that when you want to withdraw kin from the wallet, it has the problem of needing a couple of minutes because it's pulling different types of accounts in the sequencer. It's pulling different accounts together and it's putting them back into one account to be able then to send it out. And that takes a couple of minutes. But the user is not being informed in the user experience and user interface about that problem. So you expect the payment or withdrawal to be immediate. So you send out to, let's say, a phantom wallet, and then you're like, why is it not arriving? What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? And then you think your money is gone. So you're waiting like 10 minutes, sometimes longer, and then you're like, why is the fuck is the money? Where's the money? It's gone. And all it needed was an ETA timer or even a checker because you can check the Solana blockchain through the RPC uh endpoint, Solana endpoint. You can basically check when the withdrawal arrives. So you could say like expected withdrawal time 5 minutes. Um check back here, refresh to see if it already arrived. For example, super easy to implement, but they never did it. And a lot of the thoughts around it were completely, there was a lot of fallacies in Ted's thinking and the team's thinking about things. For example, one of the reasons I said always, if we want to blow up, the minimum for the tipping cards must be lowered. Put it to like 3 cents. So you put out a tipping card somewhere and people can send you like 3 cents. And the code team was like, nah, we don't want to do it less than $1 because that would encourage spamming. And then when people could get spammed, and once you set it lower, it's very hard to put it high again. They had all these kind of limiting beliefs in their head. I don't know where they're coming from. That you cannot set it higher again after you set it lower and all of this stuff, and it needs to be very well thought through and all of this bullshit. No, just fucking set it to like 5 cents. And then people would have used it like crazy. Imagine all of the money being sent back and forth on 5 cent tip links. It would have been fantastic because that's what code was developed for micropayments in this form and fashion, right? Or the other limiting thing was that you could never send more than $5. Why not? You know, all of these things. And those were sometimes legal strategic thoughts, but oftentimes it was just stupid logic, like not necessarily legal. And so a lot of these things around it made it not completely round. Because if you use crypto, why do you use crypto? You use crypto, you use these payments because you don't want to be limited. The moment you limit someone, you can go back to cash and sending transfers. Do not limit people on what they can do with the wallet. That's one of these things. So I can give you 50 different reasons why it didn't go viral or why they had problems. And for example, they did these the marketing videos that they posted then on X. They sucked. I mean, they looked kind of nice, but in the terms of like guerrilla marketing and really getting viral, they sucked as hell. They should have just gotten an intern. This is something I never understood. Why couldn't they couldn't get a social media intern that like just posts on Instagram, on TikTok, on all these outlets and stuff. I never understood that. Now now they have a totally different idea. Apparently, I'm not sure if it's really what they're pursuing, but they want to put USDC in instead of kin, and into Flip Cash, which is going to launch eventually. And then what they want to do in a second like phase, apparently, is the ability to support any kind of token. I'm not sure if SPL token or a custom token based on the VM or something, I don't know. Or launching like new tokens. I don't understand that because Ted was talking something about pumped up funds, so uh and he's spewing the same nonsense as all these years. Oh, this is the solution now. Oh, this is the real culprit was kin. Now that we got rid of kin, we can really have success by supporting millions of coins. It's like what he doesn't understand is that it's not the coins that are the problem. Kin is absolutely fine the way it is. And it's not because of one big seller that is selling it. This is something also that Ted completely misunderstands. And he's obviously not an economist, and he's pretty shitty in understanding crypto. Ted does not fundamentally understand crypto. So, the first thing is he's blaming large holders that as the price goes up, the the they sell and the price trickles down. So there's always sell pressure. I'm like, how stupid is Ted? Because whether you have USDC, whether you have kin, whether you have thousands of coins, it's gonna be the same in literally in every fucking coin, in every fucking investment. Things go up and down because people have one or more reasons to sell. It doesn't necessarily need to be that they're malevolent and they just want to be bad to the price and they just want to get out. Maybe they have personal reasons for selling. Maybe someone got sick and they need to sell it to pay for an operation. You never fucking know. And it's absolutely wrong to assume that just because you switch the currency that you're not going to have this problem. I mean, imagine just in theory, okay, this is now a little bit stretched, but just in theory, if the US dollar would start to experience Weimar Republic type of inflation, right? Like, how is USDC helping with cold wallet adoption? In that case, people would be like, we don't want to use USDC. And I think, and plus also, USDC doesn't have a community. And then he says, okay, how about if millions of coins use Cold Wallet? If technically, and I'm going to be fair on this one, if technically they can pull it off in a fashion that it makes a lot of sense uh, for any community to use Cold Wallet, and it's really plug and play, then it could, in theory, work. But here comes the thing about Ted. There was literally zero fucking reason. There was zero fucking reason to fuck over the kin community in the process. He could have just announced that USDC and kin are gonna be the most prominent currencies in Flipcash that you can switch back and forth. And then optionally, you can add any kind of community token into Flipcash. That would have been like genius. That would have been genius. And I don't understand also why he didn't consult with the overall community on this. because he could have gotten really good feedback. And here comes another thing, and this is again where Kinship's malevolence and idiocy comes in. That because I wasn't part of the Telegram group where Ted was still posting all of this stuff, I wasn't able to chip in on the conversation. I was hoping that Ted, I was hoping that Ted would have created um in his flip chat and talked about all of these things directly in his flip chat, but he was still posting to the Telegram group. And the other thing is also I suggested to Ted when I spoke to him personally in private messages. I suggested to him, Ted, do create a announcement Telegram channel where Code Inc. announces whatever they're doing right now or questions they have or things they need from the community. They post that in the Telegram channel, and then from that place we can distribute those posts into the other groups, and then we would have a decentralized communication platform. But he said, "Oh, that's interesting," but he never did it. So basically, because of Kinship's gatekeeping, the whole feedback loop and conversations were very limited, because otherwise I could have given all of these ideas and tips. The problem with Ted is he does take often a lot of feedback, but in the end he decides like he wants anyway, which is his right, of course. But um, it's interesting because I remember, for example, the buybacks. Let's talk about the buybacks. There was Solana recovered, about $600,000 of Solana. And I had a couple suggestions. The first primary suggestion was that Solana is probably going to have a huge run up to over 500 or $1,000. And if we keep everything in Solana, we have so much money, because it was like at, I don't know, maybe 30, 40, 50, $60 at that time. Let's say it was at $60. That would have been like 10x. So that would have been $6 million. If we had waited, it would have become $6 million that we could have used to buy back Kin. Imagine, Kin right now is now at about $9 million market cap. If we had waited 1 or 2 more years, we would have had $6 million, and we could have bought over 50% of the outstanding float. That was one suggestion. So my suggestion was like, put it on, I don't know, on a ledger, put it in a safe, and forget about it until it's time. And Ted was like, he responded to that directly. He was like, yeah, I don't want to be responsible for hurting the keys and stuff like that. Like absolute crypto noob who's talking bullshit. And I was like, who the fuck? Like, does he even know how crypto works? Was my kind of like internal dialogue. And so I said, okay, how about another suggestion? Because some people were selling Kin, I was like, why don't you let it fall into oblivion? Like, let it fall 5x, 10x, like 80%. Let it fall like 80, 90%. And then see, and then start when it's like, say, worth 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. Then start picking up some Kin. And do that strategically and slowly until the supply is like bought up. By the way, looking back, there could have been a million better ways to use that Solana. And what he decided in the end, he went like to Jupiter, and he put in like a DCA, which did like every hour like a small buy. And that DCA ended like a week ago or a couple days ago. And it didn't help at all. Like, and it was clear because people were selling into those buys. Everyone who wanted to get out was using the opportunity of those $600,000 to get out. And the also the idea that I had was like, if you let it drop and you buy out everything and then you still have left, then you could easily, because the float is so much smaller, you could have easily exploded the price to new highs. So those were a couple of my suggestions. None of them were taken. And all of these small things, one after one after one after one, led to the end of kin for Ted. And it's interesting because it's their own wrongdoing of many of these small actions and decisions. And in the end, he's blaming it on kin. And I think that is totally delusional. It's putting the blame on the wrong thing. It's misunderstanding the market. And it's the inability to self-reflect and self-criticize. I think Ted really has a problem with like self-analyzing, being conscious about his own shortcomings. Uh, and the only reason he likes Kinships is because Kinships is the only person who constantly kisses his ass without ever criticizing him. He has very thin skin, Ted, and the moment you criticize him or give suggestions to the effect of where he did something wrong and should be done like this, he goes like he has like an internal combustion mode. and that's the truth why Cold Wallet never went viral. And it's a shame. It's such a shame because kin is still the best currency for it, in my opinion. Second is Cold Wallet is awesome product but not polished. And third, it needs very inexpensive, smart guerrilla marketing. Viral. Nowadays you can use AI UGC, like AI user generated content. Costs you practically nothing. Hyper viral for pushing apps and so forth. You just need an intern that posts this shit. It would go viral worldwide. I don't understand it. Plus, it's not like they're running on a tight budget in the sense like they could easily get a social media intern for like 1,000 a month who would love to do this probably, and just instruct him to use AI and use all these latest tools and stuff. They have I think 2 or 3 years ago they collected $6.5 million. So it would have been easy expense. Instead, they blew like tens of thousands of dollars on stupid video productions. And I think it has to do with this boomer arrogance and coming from Kick. I think they believe like, oh, we're the shit, we know what we're doing. They don't know at all what they're doing. And to be honest, I've never used Kick Messenger because it was just a shitty messenger. When everybody else was innovating, they just remained stale. And Ted blamed, it was again blaming someone else. Ted blamed Facebook for their failures. Unbelievable. And then he started shitting on Bitcoin. Now that I talk about it aloud, I see really a pattern forming there. He constantly blames others for his shortcomings. Facebook is the culprit. Now kin is the culprit. And after we get rid of kin, we're gonna have so much success. Unbelievable. And Kinships, because he's such a ass kisser and he got inside information on selling kin on time, he was like, Well, the kin era is coming to an end, but we're gonna keep the vision alive. Like, the fuck? I just want to punch them in the face, honestly. I don't want to even talk about the money I lost and all of that stuff. It's just, in terms of like human experience, it's just disgusting, vile, um, horrible behavior. 8 years, all of the people that have been involved in the community, the partners that have tried to build on top of it, unbelievable. And then Ted goes even so far that he blocks long-term users. He blocked my account. He blocked Polypus' account. He's absolutely nuts because he cannot take the criticism. But it was seriously, and then some people are so stupid. There's like, well, he always alluded to that he doesn't have to use kin, and eventually would we all knew the risks of crypto and so forth. Complete bullshit. That's complete bullshit because Ted was always reiterating in Telegram over and over again his commitment to kin. He said he's looking at all the options, but he always reiterated his commitment to kin. And there was literally zero reason to only go with USDC in flip cash. Unbelievable. At that point, if you still support that, you must be just as dumb as those two guys. Um, I'm into crypto since like forever, and really because of the ethos and the idea that stands behind it. And going for USDC is just everything crypto stands against. USDC can be frozen. It's pegged to fiat. Bullshit. Okay, and that's pretty much everything that I want to say now. My wish, my desire would be that some spark goes off in somebody's head in Code Inc. And they're like, no, we need to put code back in. We need to put kin back in. Maybe use DC and kin as a swappable format. And don't blame it on the holders. Complete bullshit.